The most bullish billionaire in Bitcoin does it again. He goes on national television and just makes one of the most bullish price predictions, and it keeps getting better. And he unveils why he thinks that Bitcoin is going to raise a bunch in the dollar value here in the very near future. And he's detailing it to a full-on media. Now, something interesting about what Michael Saylor also said is just about how many other countries and companies are coming online to buy Bitcoin. But first, let's dive in to what he had to say about Bitcoin and its price rising and him and Strategy's price prediction.
But we're investing in Bitcoin, and my 20-year forecast for Bitcoin is 30% a year ARR. So it's easy.
So it's easy for him to go and buy literally every single week. It looks like, again, Strategy is going to be poised for another Bitcoin buy here this Monday. Look, I mean, I'm all for predictions, but he's done this literally every single time. He's bought in Bitcoin every single week except for two. That's right, two, since Donald Trump has been elected as president. Now, that dates back in November when he officially got elected. So he wasn't even in office, and Michael Saylor was smash buying, smash buying, smash buying. And Strategy has now increased their holdings to over 600,000 Bitcoin, nearly 630,000. I wouldn't doubt it if they pass that 630,000 mark literally tomorrow, and we'll see this being updated. But the unique thing is also what Larry Fink is going on the national media and saying as well about the ETFs. Now, let's listen in to Uncle Larry about how all these Wall Street bros are now getting extremely bullish on Bitcoin.
I'm very bullish on the long-term viability of Bitcoin.
I was going to say, did that surprise you?
That surprised me how much that's gone up. I mean, look at it. It is. We're creating now a market that has more liquidity, more transparency, and I'm pleasantly surprised, and I would never have predicted it before we filed it, that we were going to see this type of retail demand.
So you thought you'd do.
So he's talking about retail demand, and it's funny because the narrative around this cycle is that retail isn't even here yet. But obviously, coming from the horse's mouth, Larry Fink, that is not the case. So we have literally over 100 publicly traded companies, nearly to that full Satoshi of 1 million Bitcoin. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if we get here within that next month. It seems like they keep adding at least 23 Bitcoin a day. So who knows? That could be coming very soon. But what we do see is 172 publicly traded companies now coming online and buying Bitcoin and scooping it up very quickly. And we've got a big week ahead. I know you guys are coming in for this Sunday ripper, but we've got July new home sales data coming on Monday. We've got August consumer confidence. We got NVIDIA earnings. We've got Q2 GDP. We've got MI consumer sentiment, July PCE, a big week ahead. But the interesting thing is this is all going on without the interest rate cuts. And for those of you that have been following along, know that the US dollar, well, let's just say it's struggling here, folks. The US dollar is in its longest bear market of purchasing power. Over the last 100 years, it's literally lost 95% of its purchasing power. And since 2000, 40% of its purchasing power. So it seems like everybody is in this camp. You need to own assets or you're going to get left behind. So that's why we see so many Bitcoin treasury companies start to come online, because they realize, hey, cash is trash. If we hold cash on the balance sheet, well, that's just going to fade away and our purchasing power is going to fall on down. And we're not going to really see this start to take off anytime soon. So more and more companies are starting to come online, as well as more governments are moving away from United States debt. Now, they haven't moved into Bitcoin just yet, but they're getting more bullish on things like gold and other hard assets. So it's just a matter of time until we get to Bitcoin. Now, what are these Bitcoin treasury companies doing? Because we are seeing a little bit of a decoupling here. So everybody is kind of worried that these Bitcoin treasury companies, is it all over? Are we not going to see Bitcoin treasury companies have this premium that we've had before? So everybody's been asking the question, These treasury companies are buying billions of Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin just floating around where it is, right? We've had Bitcoin treasury company trend accelerating through a surge in interest, and it isn't translating into higher prices. So despite a surge in Bitcoin treasury holdings by public companies and 100% in asset values, the price of Bitcoin hasn't even bothered, right? And what did we see here today? We saw a whale actually sell off a big bunch of Bitcoin, where we, saw the price dip about like $5,000, but then it got scooped up really quickly. So the whale dropped 24,000 Bitcoin on an exchange, likely placed a 100x short and for fat extra profits. And in under an hour, the price dipped, but bounced back, only now down 1,000. So that's the unique thing about Bitcoin, is the resilience that we're starting to see here, is that even with whales dumping on the market, that liquidity gets scooped up so quickly that we haven't seen anything like it here at all, where the dollar, it's been hurting, and there's been a lot of activity switching from private to public treasuries. And you heard it from Larry Fink that retail is actually here, which is interesting because the whole narrative around this cycle is that there's big players here. But what I truly believe in this cycle is that we still have not seen the average family office now propose Bitcoin as a traditional investment to their investment clients. Now, why do I think that is? Well, I think it's because of what we just saw here. The whales dump on the market. You see it draw down 5%. Now, of course, it bounced back very quickly, but those moves like that drastically scare the traditional financial world. So we are not there just yet, but I think we are getting to inch closer and closer back to that area where we're going to start to see that, right? And it's interesting because all we are seeing is everybody having these. Hey, are Bitcoin treasury companies still a smart investment? Should companies still be putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet? Now, this is where everybody, I think, is just, you've got to do it, but you've got to find different ways to stand out. And when we have, others like MicroStrategy and starting to come online, look, MicroStrategy is nearly having 630,000 Bitcoin. The number two at 50,000, way far off. But we got to watch out for Metaplanet here in the Japanese market. In that clip, Michael Saylor even mentioned Japan and Metaplanet and some of these others because of their full conviction on Bitcoin. But the treasury companies are going to need to find a way to stand out now, because with this, we have more guys coming online, and this is the potential of the Black Swan event, right? All of these Bitcoin treasury companies coming in, borrowing massive amounts of money. Then all of a sudden, shit hits the fan, and then they dump a bunch of Bitcoin because they cannot service that debt. This is where something in this market worries me just oh so slightly, right? Because we have these bullish price predictions, but then we also have dips like this that happen, and shorts get liquidated, and we might see some hairiness still in the market. So you got to be extra careful when it comes to these aspects. And this is why you've got to trust, and really, I think what we're going to see is more of these treasury companies needing to have a stronger underlying business. Sure, the fad right now is don't even need a business. Just get a bunch of your boys, girls, whatever, people together. Let's borrow a shit ton of money and let's dump it into Bitcoin. It's going to go up eventually. Sure, it is. I mean, all of you guys here in the chat, I believe it here too. But that doesn't mean we're not going to have short-term price movements. And these short-term price movements cause a lot of this risk that we're going to see associated with it. And so, when we get big players like Norway's sovereign wealth fund, coming in and buying up a bunch of MicroStrategy. I mean, look at the amount of money that these guys have. It's a $1.7 trillion giant. And they've upped their Bitcoin exposure in 2025 and doing it through these indirect companies, these indirect ways, right? This exposure is up 192% over the last year. Right. So when they start to, where they're not investing in BlackRock's IBIT, Bitcoin ETF, these guys are going into MicroStrategy and some of these other ones. Right. So these guys, we're going to continue to see this rise up. And I think we're going to see more of these guys, like, Hong Kong just recently had a builder that put in a Bitcoin treasury debt. Now, what did we see here, right? It's very interesting that we have a Hong Kong builder now doing a Bitcoin treasury bet. Now, what is interesting about Hong Kong? For those of you guys in the chat that don't know, China and Hong Kong have a very close relationship here, where they're known as the one country, two systems, where they have a very strong economic tie here together. So everything in China, every economic policy gets tested through Hong Kong first. So when you have a Hong Kong company that goes and does this builder's bet, $483 million Bitcoin treasury bet, and it jumps up, even though it's listed on the NASDAQ, this gives Chinese investors some exposure to this, right? So it says it's only, it's acquired 4,250 Bitcoin for almost $483 million, but it's joined this wave of companies, right? So it would make Mingjing Hong Kong's top Bitcoin treasury. Look at that. All they had to do is one Bitcoin buy, and they became the top dog. Now, all these treasury companies coming online will not sell their Bitcoin. And I think that you guys shouldn't hear in the chat either. There's been a new wave of these companies to allow you to borrow against your Bitcoin. You have to be cautious with it. The reason I partnered with Salt is because they've got an exclusive offer for you guys, and they also have the Salt Shield. So Salt Shield is their no liquidation solution. You can just pay a little bit extra every single month, and you'll have that no liquidation solution. That's what worries me about these treasury companies. So take that worry away from you, because these guys do not rehypothecate. They don't do anything other than let you unlock your wealth. They've got some of the best rates starting at 8.95%. You could do that for 12 months and borrow up to 70% LTV. So if you guys go to saltlending.com/greencandle or the link down below, you guys will be able to unlock that very quickly, right? Because I think that the way that we're seeing Bitcoin and these Bitcoin treasury companies come online, I mean, every single one is going to have their own local Bitcoin treasury company, right? So we see Bitcoin's market is highly liquid, and the investment can capture the potential appreciation of Bitcoin and increase companies' assets. Ming Xing's financials show that it's been under pressure for a negative profit margin. Well, what was the deal with Metaplanet not too long ago? It was under a similar situation, right? So then Metaplanet starts to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and now they're turning that business around, right? So this continues to be the trend, and it's not going to stop, right? We're seeing Cantor Fitzgerald as well add another 120 million in their Bitcoin exposure. So if you look at Cantor Fitzgerald in their portfolio, right, they're adding to it. They're adding to MSTR. They're adding to all of these guys. Even though their MSTR change in shares is down a little bit, they're adding to these guys, right? The IBIT, they're down a little bit. The value of all these things are down, but they're adding to it. The allocation to Bitcoin is absolutely massive and cannot be understated here. So, we will start to see this really start to pump it. We've got some people in the X chat and everywhere else. McLovin saying, hey, I expect family offices to get on board soon. They know about preserving wealth. I agree. Bitcoin's going down because, hey, you know what? We had a whale dump here earlier today. I know, Unknown God, I see you in the chat. I know you want some Bitcoin. I want some Bitcoin too, brother. But, you guys just smoke the like for me and hit that subscribe button. That's enough for me. As long as you guys tune in and feel entertained while I'm out here blabbing my mouth away. because, seeing this whale and seeing the bounce back that we're seeing from all of these Bitcoin treasury companies, I think is super encouraging, right? I think that, we've seen others like, Grant Cardone. I've gotten, friend of the program, Gary, on the podcast a couple of times. And, these guys will really start to see, the value of Bitcoin. It's hard assets, right? These hard assets are really going to see. So are really going to see this, really start to take off, right? I mean, once we get hard assets coming in, these guys all looking at Bitcoin as, the hedge against inflation, the floodgates are really going to start to open. And, these financial institutions are really looking at MicroStrategy as a way to proxy into Bitcoin, right? So Allianz, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, gaining their exposure to indirectly to Bitcoin through MicroStrategy is very, very important in all of this, because, when these guys have to buy MicroStrategy, because MicroStrategy is now one of the best performing stocks on the planet, right? I mean, it's very well kind of bringing back those value investing principles. And I think that that's going to continue to see, what we're going to see is this revolutionize everything. So not only, when you see MicroStrategy perform as it does in its last earnings, well, we're going to start to see this trick up, right? So now with MSTR, right, from this last earnings, we saw it 13th ranked on estimated net income. Their market cap was 96th. How much of a gap do we usually see on that? We don't usually see that large of a gap. Earnings are estimated net income at 13, their earnings their market cap at 96, and their price to earning ratio is at 4.7x, right? So this is going to be, one of the most undervalued stocks on the planet. And we didn't even go over Michael Saylor's full 30% correction over the next 20 years. So if you look at this here, right, 30% up another 30K, then it goes up another 30K. This projects over 1 million Bitcoin, within the next 8.5-ish years. And then in 20 years, we'll have 21.5 million Bitcoin. And we'll see that really start to trick up. And look, to average 30% annual return over this 20-year period, I truly believe that Bitcoin will rise up quicker early on. And then as we get to these higher numbers that Michael Saylor has been digging into, that's where we're going to see maybe it slow down. I still don't think the volatility is going anywhere, though, right? Because you guys know I love to show this, the Bitcoin supply shock, right? With these OTC desks. We have 155,000 Bitcoin as the OTC desk are running low, right? So as these OTC desks are running low and we see Bitcoin now start to, fall down a little bit, right? Some of these whales are going to be asked to put Bitcoin back on these exchanges, right? So let's look at how the Bitcoin on exchanges, how this chart is doing. You guys know I love to show this. Even Google knows that I freaking show this chart every day when I'm coming to you guys live, but there's still 2.24 million Bitcoin left on exchanges, right? I mean, look at this. A year and a half ago, there was 2.95, nearly 3 million. So 750,000 coins have been taken off exchanges, and the big dogs just keep buying. It's not slowing down anytime here recently. And it's going to continue to keep humming and humming and humming. So, and look at this whale. This whale sold 24,000 Bitcoin worth 2.7 billion, causing the $4,000 crash. They still hold 152,000 Bitcoin worth more than 17 billion. I mean, are you kidding me? The amount that these whales have is insanity. I mean, these guys, they're just going to keep showing, hey, you know what? Look, I mean, if you guys have held Bitcoin for this long, you guys have seen the price appreciation. They deserve, to trim a little off the top. I'm not hating on that. Right? So I think we need to watch out for some of these whales as like this activity is going to keep pushing along. All you guys got to do is just keep getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, right? I've got an affiliate link down below for my friends over at Trezor. I've got my Trezor Save 5 here. They got a slick Bitcoin only one with the orange back. I mean, I love it. You guys should really check this out at trezor.io. If you use promo code Green Candle, look, I know you guys are loving these Trezors, so join the rest of the guys in the chat buying these Trezors because you guys are scooping them off the shelves using promo code Green Candle at an all-time rate. Maybe if you guys, I don't know, send me your screenshots, maybe on X or somewhere else. I'd love to see you guys buying these Trezors using promo code Green Candle. Send them to me. I'll retweet every single one of them. The Green Candle Twitter is humming. And then you guys got to also buy your crypto steals and back it up. If you guys do both of these, show me those screenshots on X using promo code Green Candle. You could back up your hardware and do that all in one with their metal backups, right? They give you guys, all right, you could get this big one for $110, the whole thing, $59, $30 for all of this. This case lasts through 1 ton of pressure. And if you use promo code Green Candle, you get 10% off. And like, you see these dips here on all this with Bitcoin. You see these crazy dips. And we're still holding strong. I don't think it's the U.S. government. Oh, I mean, maybe it could be actually, McLovin. Maybe it could be. Because that's a good point. They still hold 152,000. So that would be right around the amount that the U.S. government sold. So that's a good question. Wow. I mean, I guess maybe. You never know. Is the U.S. government selling off their Bitcoin? Because, hey, these numbers add up. McLovin in the chat. This is why the chat and the Green Candle live chats are the best, because you guys are outstanding here. Tossing in some good ideas as to who this whale is selling it off. Because it is very interesting when we see things like this, right? So we see a lot of longs liquidated too with all of this, right? We see 300 million worth of longs liquidated when shit like this happens. So, I mean, it just shows that even with the amount of money that is longed here, we see it all start to, go back up and do it very quickly, right? I mean, if we look at assets by market cap, Bitcoin fell to number 7. Oh my goodness, we're done, folks. We're cooked. Just above silver. We got all the way up to past Google, but of course the volatility, we're not always going to stick at number 5 here. The wee puffer said that wasn't a whale. It was that wee specky bastard CZ doing the work of the U.S. government to keep the Bitcoin price down. It could be. What do we got? What can we expect to happen when these new holding companies go under? Possibly Strategy or another holding company acquires or forces mergers. I think that this could potentially happen, man. I think that, we will see some of these treasury companies go down. That's just plain and simple. Not all of these guys will survive. That's the reality of the situation. But I don't think Strategy is going to be the one that's going down. They're not going to be yelling timber, But we could potentially see some of these guys trickle along. I think that this is going to be something interesting. We're going to be keeping a very close eye on this. Make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button. I also had a great interview with the one and only Dark Side 2030. So if you guys haven't checked that out yet, you guys need to go and watch that interview ASAP. We had it here. Literally almost 8,000 of you guys already watched it in a single day. It was one of my favorite interviews, and the comments there are just, you guys are loving it. So make sure you guys go and check that real quick. It's in the live chat. I'm putting it down here. It's also on my channel. Make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button. Smoke that like Cheech and Chong. And I'll catch you guys all at the next one.